You're listening to Unspooled, the podcast where failed prints are just part of the journey. Hosted by Corey from Mojee3d, the guy who thinks filament is a personality trait, and Steve from Layer by Layer, who probably has more spools of filament than forks. Every week we dive into 3D printing, making, and the occasional rant. So grab your favorite filament and let's get unspooled.
All right, we should be officially live. How's everybody doing?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
So tonight we are no guests today.
No guest.
And tonight we are going to be talking about AI.
Yep.
AI in 3D printing, 3D modeling, and then what that entails, the different opinions behind it, the different ideas, the things that people are kind of using it for.
Yep.
I've played with it. I've used it. So has Steve.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure a lot of you guys have. And there's a lot of thoughts behind it. And there's been some recent content creators do some videos about it.
Yeah.
So we just thought this was where this was a guest-free podcast. We thought it would be a good time to dive into this and talk about it.
Yeah, and it's a conversation I've had probably like 3 times this week already.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things that it keeps coming up. The better the stuff gets, the more of a hot button topic it becomes. So it's good that we set aside some time to kind of talk about it.
Yeah. And Steve and I have talked about it off air a little bit. And we have even just between the two of us, 2 people who agree on a lot of things and disagree on some things. And we even have a differencing of opinion about it
100%.
On certain stuff. Some things we agree, some things we don't. And that's the interesting thing, I think, is that there's a lot of different opinions and nobody's wrong, right? Everybody's got a different perspective, or a different use case, or is in a position that AI is either beneficial or threatening, so I think that discussions on both sides is valuable. Hey Daddy Wazzy, good to see you.
Hey, Tintalon, good to see you as well.
Tintalon, yeah. I'm a fan of Delicious Flavor. How you doing? So one of the things I'm not a huge AI user, but I have been an adopter of ChatGPT since its inception, basically since you've been able to pay for it, when it was free and then when you were able to buy the better version of it. I've used it. I don't necessarily use it in my 3D design per se. I'll use it just to play with it, just to see what it's capable of doing. It's started out very poor. It's still not great. It's better than it was even 6 months ago. And we were actually talking on the Unspooled Discord a couple nights ago. It was just me, you, and Gulsifer, right? Just the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And we were chatting about the use of it in Bamboo, right? I think the addition of like the Bamboo AI and the Maker Lab kind of really brought the 3D modeling out for a lot of people. People that might not have used ChatGPT or some of the other earlier AIs kind of saw that and were like, oh, I can use it, right? And I think it was Printmon, right? It was the first one that came out, the little caricatures. And the funny thing is when we were talking, I was actually in it because I've only used the Maker Lab twice, and it was for Printmon 2 different times. And what Printmon was able to produce at the time was a little caricature, right? And it was not bad, but the coloring was bad. When you could export the model, it was just manually painted. None of the different colors were separate parts. So if you wanted to change colors, you were manually painting everything. And they weren't very detailed models. So there's a new version now. So when I went into these old Printmons and I clicked update to like the new model,
Mm-hmm.
The first time it froze and I had to just close out the browser. The second time it just spun and spun and spun for like 30 minutes. It finally went through, and to be honest, I didn't see a change. So I know people have said like some of those things have gotten better, but I'm not seeing it on at least the print on the little creature part of Bamboo Lab. Have you had any use with Maker Lab as far as trying it out?
No, I personally, I stay away from a lot of those.
Yeah.
Like to the extent that I use AI for like design, it's more for like uh idea, more like what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I'm just kind of like gathering, concepts. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, if I want to make a turtle, I'll go into like Mid Journey and pull up all the turtles, that I can find, and then pick assets from it to pull
Yep.
into a design, and not just like generate a model from it.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal preference. It's just not for me,
Yeah.
like, and I think it's more so because like I've been doing like creative stuff for like probably like 25 years or so, and so it's hard for me to just be like, and I love tech, I like AI. I don't dislike it at all. I just don't like when people pass it off as their content and for gains,
Yeah.
like if you're just like, oh, I generated this in AI, cool. But when it's like you're passing it off as something that you made and then you like use it to get maker coins and stuff like that. Because I think it would be like if real artists, air quotes, let me take that, but if real artists started using real designers that like already are killing it, started using AI, then like they would probably destroy like a lot of the stuff because they know what they're looking for. They have that eye, they can generate something and then fine tune it and make it even better, And I'm not doubting that there are artists that are already doing that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I kind of don't have a problem with that because they know that they know the craft and they just kind of like using this to start a model as opposed to just like typing a sentence, downloading the model, uploading it to MakerWorld, uploading it to printables or things or wherever. And like that's what's happening. A lot of times it's just people like, oh, today I'm gonna like in Uncle Jesse's video, he said he saw somebody that uploaded 400 models in like the last 150 days.
Yeah.
There's no way to like if you were making by hand 400 models, and I think he said it averaged out to about 3 models a day. If you were doing that per day, you'd be a machine.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, so obviously it's a telltale sign that someone is just generating and updating. So hey, 3D Medic Vince, good to see you. Just saw you come in.
That's the part that kind of sucks, because
and I I agree with you there. I as a designer myself, I'm not into just generating 3D models in AI. Now I might use it as what I've heard it coined as, and I like the term idea generation, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I may have an idea and I might prompt or I might take an image of something I drew, right? So I might go get in Procreate and I may draw something and then I may use that in AI to maybe drum up some ideas or like what I'll refer to as like define or refine an idea. But ultimately I'm doing that in order to go into either Fusion 360 or Nomad Sculpt or ZBrush to sculpt that from scratch, so I'll use it as kind of that idea generation. And it's not that I don't think if I'm a 16-year-old in high school or I'm a 40-year-old parent with 4 kids and I just don't have the means, I can't go. I'm a 16-year-old kid and I can't afford a tablet or an iPad to be able to use Nomad Sculpt, right? Or so there is some cost into getting into sculpting and CAD design. Your kid might not have access to a computer that's powerful enough to run Fusion or something. Who knows? In that case, I'm okay. I'm all right with the AI model generation for that type of person that just wants to create those and then print them for themselves for personal use. I do agree with you in the sense that, if you start uploading 400 of those a month, to someplace like Maker World in order to just drum up points for free filament or free gift cards for printers,
Free
stuff like that.
printers, because people are getting
You
printers
know,
as a result of
yeah,
making these things.
I think that starts to get a little fuzzier. You know, it's like you're not
Well,
doing the
and
work.
and that's the thing. I can't say for sure that this is happening, but we know that when Maker World first started, people were gaming the system to get printers and then more than likely selling them. I wouldn't doubt that that's still the same thing happening here, because it's passive. It's passive income. You don't have to do any work to type out a sentence, to generate a model, to upload it to Maker World, and then you just sit back and hope that it makes some money for you.
Yeah.
And then like you didn't even print it out. You might have downloaded Bamboo Slicer and generated a model. Generated a profile and then uploaded it, and then boom, you just sit back and wait for the cash. Like anybody could kind of do that thing. That there's no skill involved with that at all. And I think that's kind of like also the thing that bothers me is that like the Screen Actors Guild and the I can't think of the writers one, but they went on strike for a reason, because they didn't want people to start using AI to generate the stuff that they get paid for. But like if you like those same people, if they use it, they probably could generate like crazy masterpieces.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I feel is like, are there shows that are out right now that probably where the actors don't fall under the guild that are probably using AI to help with scripts, and are there people in Hollywood that may be doing it as well, but just like not as not telling people? Of course, it's a tool. I won't say everybody, but a lot of people use it. But I think that like holistically, there's no way to regulate it. But I think as a community, you should be more willing to support like artists that like sit and take their time to like make stuff, than you would to just like, oh, it's Bugs Bunny and it's urban Bugs Bunny. Let me go download that. I'm not saying that model is generated that way, but it's a Christmas tree with dangly legs, that kind of stuff. Those are the things that I kind of have issues with.
Yeah, and I think you have like kind of like the three different groups of people that are you have like the non-designers, the non-modelers who are using it to produce those models, right? That they're just uploading. And then you have the people that are modelers, are professionals that do this for every day, that might be using it to generate ideas or to generate base sculpts and then refining them later on. And then you have the people that are just fully against it, right? Like it shouldn't exist. It's wrong. Hey Bryce, how you doing, man? Bryce, I talked to a lot on X. Great guy. Glad to see you here. So Bryce says AI has its uses, but I doubt it will ever replace.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. I have two kids that are artists, and I fully support them in making art, and I want them to continue to make art, because I do feel like AI will separate okay artists from great artists. Like I think something from a great artist will still be appreciated. Like I think a Wexter model will still be appreciated over a teddy bear that someone did in AI with like no real thought into, like no human thought put into why does this bear have stitches on his face, or or a sword in his hand, and as opposed to like the story that's kind of behind a Wexter's model, or the story that's behind like a James the Printer's model, and I think those types of things.
I think the caveat to that is that now, how do we, as these AI model generators become better, right? Because it'll get to a point where they're able, they're going to be indistinguishable between the two. Like right now, I mean, they're creating deep fake videos and voices that even video experts and voice experts are having trouble discerning the difference.
Absolutely.
It'll get to a point where AIs are able to generate a 3D model that is tougher to distinguish between. Like right now, if we look, let me bring this up. So this is an example of one of the more popular tools that a lot of people are using. And this is Mojee, right? Mojee AI. If you're in 3D printing and you've looked into 3D modeling, you've probably run into Mojee, right? So before today, I had never used Mojee. I didn't have an account with Mojee. I had never used it, right? But I've heard of it and I've seen people do models. And I will say, it'll generate a model, right? So this is based off, let's go to here. This one. See if I can get back to the, okay, so it's probably not going to give me the original prompt. Right here. So this is the original prompt, right?
Yeah.
And
this you might have to read it for everyone because it's a little small.
Yeah, so it's really long. I won't read the whole thing.
Okay,
but basically, this prompt was done and it generates these 3 models, right? Then you pick the one that you like, okay? The first one that it produced is this one, okay? So this is a model based off a fixed poly count of 10,000, which is low.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty low.
And it was a triangular based topology. Okay. So this is the free account. If I want to do anything else within this, I have to pay, right? If I want to go up to 100,000, I have to pay. My only other option is to switch between triangle and quad. This version here is done with quad. Okay. I will tell you that here, it doesn't look too bad, right?
Yeah.
But let's look at that model X. Oh, why do I keep doing that? Let's look at that model exported in. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Let me just share that. Okay. So, okay, here's the 2 versions of that model exported into Orca. They're not good, right? The free Mojee AI, which is one of the more popular AI generating tools for 3D models, it's not good. So the one on the left here is the 10,000K mesh with a triangular topology, right? So you have a little bit more detail. But if you were going, and then this one here is the quad at 10,000. So this one here would be a better option if someone who was an existing 3D modeler and you were going to export something and then take this into, say, Nomad Sculpt and edit it.
Yeah.
But they're still not good. The quality of them's not good. So at this point, if you're in Mojee AI, the free version, and you're just pumping out models and you're uploading it, it's going to be pretty easy for someone to look at this and be like, oh, that's not a very good model, right? But if you're paying for Mojee AI, which I think is $16 a month for like the mid tier, which gives you that 100,000K poly count. Now that might produce a model that someone might look at and be like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. And that might kind of pass for some people as being something that somebody handmade. So I think, and obviously a lot of them are different and you could get better at this probably the more you use this tool. But at some point it's going to get to the point where anybody's going to be able to go into this tool and export a model. So at that point, how do we, like you said before, how do you police that, right? So is it,
I don't want to say police.
Okay, so how do you monitor that? How do you manage that? How does a Maker World or Printable? So right now, if you upload it to Printables or you upload to Maker World, there's an option that says this was generated with AI content.
Yeah.
There's a flag that you're supposed to check. Okay. Now the issue is now I upload that model and I don't check that, right?
Yep.
So now it's up to the company or the individual running that repository to say, I'm flagging this as AI, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But how is it flagging that? It's most likely flagging that using an AI tool, right? To look at it and to say, this is this is an AI generated model. And then you have, just like in the IT world, you have false positives and false negatives, right?
We had it happen with Instagram for instance.
Yeah.
When you let AI kind of police your neighborhood.
What Steve is referring to, we were creating the Unspooled Instagram account.
Yeah.
And we created the Instagram account, and within 15 minutes,
it was like
Instagram was like, yeah, this is a no-go site. We don't. It was referred to as you were doing what, or we were doing.
It said like we had posted bad content. We hadn't even posted any content.
Posted anything, right? And it nixed the account.
Yeah. We couldn't even get it back. Like
yeah,
no
and
post,
it said something like our automatic technology or something like that. That's how they voiced it. They didn't come out and say AI, but obviously it was. I think it said our automated algorithm identified that you were. But yeah, it's like at that point, how do you monitor that, or how do you maintain that to keep people honest? Because as you said, there's always going to be someone that's going to game the system.
It's always going to be someone that's going to game the system. I think there's the one way where it's like you just allow the community to police itself. But then you also, with that, you get haters in a sense who are over policing the content. But then also, like, is it in their best interest to stop, these models from being uploaded? They've done like their part by saying like, hey, we put a checkbox on there for people to say that it's AI. Like, we're good, because for them, for every model they have, that's more traffic, that's more time people stay on the site, that's more time that people may buy filament, more downloads. That's more people, and I'm just speaking about MakerWorld because they have a whole ecosystem. That's more people engaged with the whole ecosystem that is MakerWorld / Bamboo Labs. So, for them, is it really in their interest to like not? They gave us a tool to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it's not in their interest to even regulate that part of
So
the community.
It's the honor system. Right?
Yeah, it's the honor system. So like, at what point do you even really care about it enough to do anything about it? I just think that like, it's not gonna go away. It's just gonna be the record player of hipsters of people are gonna people are gonna like
2025 to 2020 to 2035. This is what we're gonna be dealing with.
People are gonna be like, oh no, was that generated? Like, no, I want a real model, and I think that's one of the things that's gonna happen with AI and art in general. I think people will like, sure, you can go buy a generated family portrait, or you can get a real artist to come and paint your family portrait, and it'll be harder for artists to make money, but it'll make that artist's work more valuable in a sense and more exclusive because it was painted by a human as opposed to being painted by a computer, And so hopefully that's what happens with the 3D modeling. But the downside of it is the price barrier on 3D models is so low, from the point of view of like, even when you join like a Patreon, in some cases you get access to all that person's models for like 10 bucks, so there's nothing you can really do about it, there's nothing you can really do to kind of like balance that out. It's like, do you just keep buying them? Do you, it gets muddy.
So you have like that I've heard a lot of people refer to it as quantity versus quality, which goes back to that Uncle Jesse video of like somebody posting 400 models in a month, right? I don't care how much energy drinks Wexter's done, he's not pumping out 400 models.
He's pumping out
right?
400 models.
So it doesn't matter how good of a designer you are, you just can't keep up with that.
No, you can't.
So it's like, and then if you're a designer, if you're a legitimate designer, and AI ever gets to the point where it can now generate a Wexter quality model, how does someone like Wexter or a designer, you and I are both designers, how do we keep up with someone who is just using that tool to just pump models out?
You can't, bro. You can't. It's like there's nothing you can really do
Yeah. So
outside
if
of
you're
flooding the game with your models. You know what I mean? You have to like.
yeah, but as we said, you can't. An AI could pump up 400 models in a month, no problem, but we
Yeah.
couldn't. So at what point in the future, 1 to 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, at what point will a legitimate modeler like a Wexter, like you, or somebody who does that for a living,
Yeah.
is either gonna is they're gonna get to a point, most likely, because we know a lot of us that would prefer to support a legitimate modeler over
Yeah.
somebody who's just pumping out AI.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people that don't care, right? And they're
There's
just going to
there's
buy a model
there's way more of them
that
that
don't.
don't
Yeah.
care.
So they're just going to buy the model
Yep.
that whoever put up, whether it's whoever's cheaper. So if you're pumping out AI generated models, you're going to be able to put up 400 models
Yeah.
cheaper per model than a real designer, right?
Yep.
So at what point does that real designer say, if I want to keep my job, keep my career, keep my work, and be able to
Yeah.
keep up and support myself and my family, do I start using an AI tool to supplement models, right? Maybe I'm still designing my from the ground up, from scratch models, but I'm now supplementing, or I'm taking my previous models, putting them through AI to reiterate them,
Yeah.
and then uploading them.
I think honestly, like it may behoove like some artists to start training their own, training the models. Like if I know I
Yeah.
make, like take like Funko Pop, I wouldn't be surprised if they're like using AI at this point because they
Oh,
have a
probably.
style. You can just feed every one of those in and then feed
Yep.
in a picture of someone, and then boom, you have a Funko Pop of that person, and they could just like you could just churn those out like
Yeah.
nothing.
So,
I'm pretty sure they got like a mill of 3D printers as well. So
yeah. So,
yeah,
hey, GTR Dad, good to see you here.
yeah,
We're in the throes of this AI thing. So with that, a perfect example again, we'll stay on Wexter, right? Because
yeah,
Wexter has very known
yeah,
and easily identifiable mini
yeah,
people, right? Mini
yeah,
Joels, mini Wexters, mini everybody.
yeah,
Anybody has a mini, right? So at what point in the future would someone like Wexter say, all right, now I'm just going to put all of my minis into an AI model,
yeah,
and I'm going to say now, give me a Thanos mini, give me a unspooled layer by layer mini,
yeah.
give me whatever, and it just spits it out.
And it's
Uh,
like at that point, I don't think I'm mad at that though, because
yeah,
it is you taking your hard work and you've trained the system to create art based off of what you already do, as opposed to like I put in one model or one idea and it generates this, and then that's it. So when it's based off of like content that you've created, now you're creating you know, uh your own modeling system in a sense. And
yeah,
it's really no different than like let's say Hallmark or something. Pretty
yeah.
sure they got templates there that can grind out certain things.
So with what I just said, and I agree, I think you and I like. So
Mhm.
if you're a Wexter who in the future now determines, in order to keep up, I'm going to take all my minis, put them
Yeah,
through my own AI model, and I'm going to use it to generate more of them quicker and faster. Built over bot says, but if you use AI, is that new model now a Wexter model?
now if he's talking about in reference to the Wexter stuff, like if you're putting in all of your models and churning it up, I still feel like that's his model because it's built
82.
off of his style,
Yeah.
and is not pulling from the ether and everyone else's stuff. It's like this is how I make things, like rinse and repeat, you
Yeah.
know, you know,
And
and
I'm okay. And I agree with you there. I think
yeah,
that's fine. I'm okay if somebody takes a lifetime of models that they've developed,
yep,
run that through an
their
AI,
stuff, yeah, yep,
and then use that to supplement their hand done models,
yeah,
right?
absolutely,
So that goes into how AIs are trained, right? Because
Yeah.
right now we have the issue, and I think all of us, especially if you're a designer, but anybody in 3D printing who even isn't a designer, I've heard have a problem with this, is that current AI tools that are generating 3D models are learning by just scraping the internet of
Yeah.
every model they can get, whether it's a public model or something behind a locked down license, right?
Yeah.
And they're just scraping them and then training the AI on it. That
Yeah.
I'm not okay with, right? I'm fine with them training on anything that is out there that has like a public license,
Yeah.
free to use for commercial, anything wide open, that I'm fine with. But if it's behind a license that is non-commercial use, that's a no-go in my book, right? Like
Yep.
you don't use that. Now, even if these tools and the companies behind these tools come out and say, well, we're not doing that, do you believe them?
Nah.
No,
I mean, it's the same way we believe that Alexa and Google aren't spying on us.
aren't listening on it.
Yeah, we know
Right.
for
And
a fact that they
but
are.
if I say anything remotely that sounds like
Yeah,
Siri,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
gonna pick up, right? Like
Yeah,
obviously
we start talking about
they,
like grapefruit farming or something,
and
and
then
then
you
like,
see it on your phone.
yeah, you see it on your phone.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that they're not doing it because it's too easy. The same reason why they are listening, because it's too easy. It's gift wrap. That like, but like when, like I said, my thing is when people pass off models as their own, it's not. It's actually the communities. It's everyone whose
Yeah.
ideas were scraped to make this thing happen. And then you take it. And like I said, my only issue is when you take it and use it to for gains.
Yeah,
And
if you put it out there for free and anybody can use it,
yeah,
I'm
100%.
fine, right?
Cool. And for free is if you put it out there and you're not expecting and you're not putting it where it can make money for you. Like if you're saying, yes, this is AI generated, I just wanted to put it out there.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Totally cool. But if
Yeah.
it's like I'm putting it out there and I'm trying to make money off of it, and unfortunately, like people fall on hard times, and I'm pretty sure there's people who are doing it because they need the money,
Oh yeah.
and like, can I knock that? No. Like, but I don't have to support them, and that's cool. Like I will support you in
Yeah.
another way as opposed to downloading your model and giving you maker coins for it or whatever, or whatever currency there is.
Yeah. So there is a lot where I've heard people say, like Maker World, their big thing right now, and I know a lot of people have issues with it. Even the people that don't have a problem with, who don't have a problem with 3D generated models per se,
Yeah.
also still have an issue with that model being uploaded to something like Maker World, where that person who owns that is now generating points, but the only thing on there is an AI generated image of that model,
Yeah.
right? So now Maker World has explicitly said AI generated images are not okay, right? You have to have an actual printed model of it.
Yep.
And if you don't flag that yourself, they will flag it. And they have had people, and I have had people that have told me that they've uploaded a model with an AI generated image, and Maker World is like, nope, that's a no-go. And I'm okay with that. I think even if you're uploading a AI generated model to a site, and you're just getting points, or you're not giving prices or anything like that, and it's a free open model, I'm fine with that. But I want you to still print it, right? And I want you to print it, and I want you to upload a picture of that model so someone can see it printed. Because a lot of these AI generated models, like if you look at Meshie AI, there's hundreds of thousands of models on there, and probably less than 20% of them are actually printable.
Yeah, who knows, dude?
I don't know the actual number, but if you look down through them, or anybody who's been in 3D printing for a period of time, you can just tell that they're just not printable, right? Like
yeah. I mean, you
maybe
can look at someone's page on these sites, and see like, okay, there's no consistent style to these things.
Yeah.
They're just things that you generated and threw up there. And like, you know, for like I think like if you've done it like 2 or 3 times, I don't care. Like, but if you're like, I got 400 models on here and they've all been more than likely AI generated, like, yeah, you're the bad person in this story. You're the villain in the story, not like
and
someone who's doing like 2 or 3 of them.
I think built over bots comment he says, but but the same token, if someone downloads a model and uses that to make a new model, is that the same? Well, I think that's not okay, right? Like if I take a Wexter model, or I take a bunch of Wexter's minis, and I use that to then produce my own mini AI generated, and then put that on a site,
or you download it and then you use it to make your own model, and then even if you're doing it by hand, I don't like either one of those.
No.
The other thing that I don't like is you see sometimes this isn't AI, but you'll see someone like, oh, this person doesn't share their model on MakerWorld, so I'm sharing it here. Like that is also kind of cheesing the system as well.
Yeah.
And it should be frowned upon, you know, like, hey, maybe they don't want their model on that site because they don't agree with the policies of that site. So now you've stolen their model, put it over here like you're doing them a favor when you're doing it for just the points. And that's the thing, you know, and that's the thing that bothers me with that.
And this is kind of a separate topic, but both of the bots said it. So it is the predator.
So real quick, it is the predecessor to AI models, and then just modifying them. And that's, and like, I feel like there is a gray area of like, how much have you done to this model that you've downloaded? Like if you generated a rabbit and then you said, oh, I'm gonna change his eyes to this. That's not your model. You just modified an AI generated rabbit to add some eyeballs, you know? But is there like 50% or is it 25%? Like,
so
at what point does it become yours? Yeah.
So this is generated from Mojee AI. How much, if I take this one here and I upload it in a Nomad Sculpt, how much of this do I have to edit in order and then upload it to where it's mine? Is it ever going to be mine?
Dude, right? Yeah. Exactly.
So everybody in chat, if you weren't here at the beginning of the stream, these are models that were generated out of Mojee AI, right? And they're not good models, right? This is the free version of Mojee, so it's only 10,000 poly count. This is triangle. This is quad. If I was going to take one of these 2 models and put them in Nomad, it would be this one. But even if I take this model and I put it in Nomad and I spend 5 hours editing this and clean it up, smooth it out, put super detail into it, add some stuff to it, and then upload it, even if I spent 5 hours editing this, is it my model?
According to MakerWorld, it's not, because you have AI elements in it.
Yeah.
You know.
So, or if I'm a designer who is using AI to idea generate, which I'm okay with, right? So I had an idea in my head. I put it into a text prompt. I put it into Mojee and I generate this fox, right? Because in my head, I had this idea. I now generate this fox to look at it visually, but then now I go into Nomad Sculpt, blank slate, and I replicate this exact same fox in Nomad Sculpt from scratch. Is it then my model?
It's your model. It's your model.
Even though I copied an AI generated model.
Yeah.
Right. I would think it is too.
Yeah. You just use it's like saying you sketched the Tower of Pisa, right? The Leaning Tower of Pisa on a piece of paper. You know, like no one would be like, if you went to, like, let's use the Mona Lisa or something. You went and saw the Mona Lisa, you sketched it yourself as an interpretation of it. And it's also, that's kind of like how music also works as well. I think it's called interpolation or something like that. But you know, you redid it in your own style, even if it's close to it. Now, can you sell it? Who knows? But at least with this, you know, right now we're talking about the AI stuff and generating ideas, because people do storyboarding all the time. They also do like mood boards and stuff like that to get an idea. Like if you ever seen someone design like a gaming robot, if you saw like their board, they'd have like, hundreds of pictures on there with like elbows and knees and faces and all the different parts, and they take all of that and make it into one thing. Or they take, and now they may not even be doing all that. They may have like just 5 images because they can use AI to generate something that's closer to what they want, and then they can pull from it the different elements that they want to use in their design. And that's kind of how, if I'm using AI, I'll pull up, I'll put in like, crazy pumpkin or something like that, right? And then it'll generate, a bunch of them. I'll add them all and then use that to like, okay, I like the eyes on this and the something on this and the something on this. And then you take all of those ideas and you start adding them to, your sculpt or whatever, or your design. And it may start with like, okay, that's a good idea, but your version of what you get may not be exactly the same as what was there. And so even though you were inspired by it, you made something else that's totally different. You know what I mean? I was thinking not totally different, but you made something that is like adjacent to it. But no one's gonna like look at it and say, okay, here's this one and here's this one. They're the same thing. No. But like if you took this fox, right, and you disassembled it, in a sense, and then put it all back together, and then someone took it and held it up against Meshy and be like, okay, this is definitely from Meshy, because that's probably what will eventually start happening. Once the AI gets smarter and smarter, you're gonna have it where it can do checks and say like, okay, we have a Meshy account and we can see all the free stuff. We have a so and so account, we can see all the free stuff. You just generated this an hour ago and then you uploaded it. So if they get that smart, but if they care as well, they may not care, like I said.
So Delicious Flavor here, they have a thing. Wrong one. Sorry. GTR Dad. Remix, right? So if I download a model out of Maker World or Printables and I remix it and I put it back up and I say, hey, this is a remix of this one, it's okay.
I think remix models, you shouldn't get the points. Like those points should go to
that's valid, right? Yeah. So that
or it's a 50-50 split, or actually more than 50-50, because you just took it and added something. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I take this fox and I add a backpack, right? I had a backpack and then I put it on. Is this now a remix of Meshy AI, right? Like, so is that okay? Or would that be okay if now I'm putting it on and I say, oh, this is remixed from a Meshy AI model?
It's still got the AI element in it. You know what I mean? So according to what they say, does it contain AI? Like, yeah, it does. Like, even if you made a backpack, to slap on it, it's still like not it's the majority of it. Number one is not your work. And I think what they're going after is like, does this contain any AI? They didn't go, the fact that they didn't go deep into it leaves it kind of like left up to interpretation. But I think it also covers them on a broader scale than if they say, if you did this, 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 and this, then They just said like, hey, does this contain, AI or whatever, AI elements or whatever it says, like, and that kind of like opens it up for like, it opens up on a broader scale. So it's like you can't say that it is or it isn't. If it's in there, it's in there. It doesn't qualify. Now I don't know what the repercussions are on Maker. If you have like maybe you don't get points. I don't know what happens. Or coins,
and I don't either. But like someone like Built Over Bot is saying that he doesn't think any of it's okay, right? So he doesn't use any AI for any models, which you and I currently don't either as designers. I don't either. I'll use something like ChatGPT to talk back and forth with to develop an idea, but I'm not using AI to generate even a base of a model that I then go edit. I don't do any of that. But I think it's a valid discussion about, as this all starts to develop, when do those beliefs and those point of views start to change, or will they? Will 5 years from now someone like Built Over Bot or you or me or a Webster say the game has changed, And I now need to do that in order to stay relevant, to keep up, make my money, feed my family, however you want to frame it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, dude, it's just it is literally a gray area. Like it's hard to even justify one way or another. Like I said, I don't like if it's your hustle, it's your hustle. Like keep doing it. If
yeah,
it's making you, if I just choose not to game the system that way. And like I said, I'm not talking about people who upload 2 or 3 models. It's the people who like really kind of like muddy the water and don't say that they're AI models. That it makes it seem kind of like trash in a sense.
yeah,
Like using AI, like if that's what you want to do, and if you need to do it, like I just don't have to like download your models. Like I see AI models on there all the time. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, but no, I was like, I'm not going to like it. I try not to. I try
yeah.
not to actively like AI models, just because like it's it's just
Well,
not the same. Like,
so
and
it
it's
actually
just out of respect for artists.
came up this past week on printables, because the second most trending model on printables was this, I think it was a little Batman figurine, little
Uh-huh.
Batman like Funko Pop looking thing. That was number 2. Well, if you went down to the filter and you clicked hide AI content,
Mm-hmm.
that went away. That was,
I respect the person for putting it in as AI content, number one.
yeah,
So they didn't have to do that, and they probably would have
no.
still been that high on the list.
But I think that goes back to the point where I think the vast majority of people that are downloading models from these sites, they don't care,
Yeah.
right?
No, they don't.
They see that
No, well, let
model
me
and
say that. Let me say that. I don't. The assumption is that they don't care. They may
or they
not
just
even
don't
know.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which more likely the vast majority of them just might not even know of the difference or the issue. Um, but I mean, if the number 2 trending model, and if you were on the first page and you clicked hide AI models, a lot of them disappeared. Like
Yeah.
there were 4 or 5 on that first page that were flagged by whoever uploaded them as being AI content. So it was
Yeah.
quite a lot of them. And I think it's only going to become, um, I think it's only going to become more, right? Because like, the genie's not going back in the bottle, right?
Yeah.
Like AI is not going away. It's only going to become more prevalent, more used,
Yeah.
and better.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Look how far it's
so
come in 2 years. You
yeah,
know, who would have thought we'd be having it? Like literally popped up overnight, and then all of a sudden we were having these conversations. You
yeah,
know, and you know, the, like there are people who are super enamored by it, and
yeah,
it can do no wrong, and that's fine. It's not the AI that itself; it's just the tools that people are using to do it. And like, it's not saying it has to stop here. I'm not drawing any lines in the sand. It's just, can you still hear me?
yeah. I can hear you.
Okay,
Your
I think my
camera
camera
dropped off.
yeah, it must have overheated or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, no one's drawing a line in the sand. It's just one of those things where you just can't you can't get around it, for the most
yeah,
part.
yeah. And I think I'm my thoughts behind it are, and I truly believe this. I think at some point, um, our a lot of people's beliefs are going to change, right?
Yeah,
I think at some point it is going to become so ingrained and such a necessity that I think people are going to start accepting it more. And I think
yeah,
people who right now are completely against it are going to now kind of change their thoughts. And that's what I'm curious to see. Like I'm curious to see from like a social, like a societal, philosophical, of how it's gonna, how not just AI itself, like the tool is gonna change, but how us as the humans who are using it are gonna change. And who is now gonna be okay with it, because it's I've been trying for a couple weeks to think back of like, what was that like? Like I remember, I'm young enough yet old enough to remember when cell phones came out, right? when I was in high school, very few people had a cell phone.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a cell phone until 2001, something, like the old big brick Nokia.
Yeah.
But there was a period of time when those started coming out, there were people dead set against them.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't have them. They shouldn't exist. And then a lot of people over the years started changing. Well, yeah, okay, you can have them, but they should only be in your car for emergencies when you're traveling.
Yeah.
And then there was a period of time where everybody didn't want them at a workplace, right? Nope, you can't have those at work, right? And people changed. Now, 2025, and for the last 10 years or more, you can't go anywhere without your phone, and it's like a necessity for everybody. And even when you're even for people that are older generations. So I am curious to see of how that changes with all of us and AI in general, and not just in 3D printing, but in 3D modeling. But
it's, I mean, like I said, no one's saying that it should go away. I just think that you should, like I said, my issue is we're talking about writing sentences here, and they don't even have to be good anymore. Like prompt writing isn't even as difficult as it was 2 years ago to get something good out of an AI.
And you don't even have to. You can use AI to write the prompt.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
like that fox. That fox I did. That entire prompt was written by ChatGPT. I didn't even write the prompt.
So yeah, there's really, and like I don't like, it's hard for me to understand how can you justify like it as your art. And like I said, that's the thing, is like it's not your art if you generated a sentence to generate the art. And like I think Meshii actually has an AI generator in it as well. You generate the sentence to generate the art to upload. When you like all that you came up with was like, hey, make a rabbit sitting on a pie or whatever, right? And then you like, hey ChatGPT, give me a prompt to use in Meshii to help me generate a 3D model of a rabbit sitting on a pie. You put that into Meshii, and then you take that model out. You take it and upload it to what's it like? How? At what point do you feel like that you've accomplished something besides just saying, make a rabbit, sitting on a pie?
Like, and you're not like now. I generate a fox thing, and I don't even generate the prompt. I use AI to generate the prompt, and then I use AI to reiterate that prompt again, and then I use that prompt to generate the model. So GTR Dad, I mean, he's got a good point here, is that if AI is coming for artist jobs or whoever, is this the same as, say, the invention of digital media, right? Because I was in marketing for 12 years, right? I worked in higher education marketing for colleges, and then I transitioned to working for a hospital for healthcare. So when I was in early marketing in early 2000s, there was still paper, right? Magazines, newspaper, you were taking out ads. That has since changed, right? Magazines, if you go to BAM or Borders, you still see magazines. But it's a very, very small number now.
They don't print as many of them as well.
And there are a lot of them that used to come out with 12 issues a year now come out with 6 or 3 or biannually. So that all changed, and now it's all digital, right? It's all Google ads and everything.
So here's the thing: it's all digital, and it's all like very localized in some situations. Whereas though you could have made a like patch.com or whatever. They have localized versions of that. But if you were to do that as a magazine, 10 or 20 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, you would have had to publish that. It would just been like, oh, here's all the stories from these few areas. But now you can take that same, digital magazine and cut it up and just have it regionalized. And that has, like you said, digital media has made it more, easier to do these things. What's going to happen? We have to kind of like face the facts. Art will like human art will go away, you
Yeah.
know, for the most part. And then you will have people who curate real art, real people
Yeah.
art, you
Yeah.
know.
Like
You
you'll
know,
have museums
yeah,
that are human art museums
yeah.
and then AI art museums.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you'll
And
have museums that are both.
yeah, absolutely. Because we have people who won't care at all. And I think, like, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with 3D printing. Like, if you make 3D printers, like AI art and AI modeling is great for you, because now people will buy a printer and their baby can like come up to it and say, "Hey, I want a teddy bear," you know, and it'll render, you know, it'll create the STL for it and just send it straight to the printer. And
Yeah.
that's all you have to do. Well, that's very Star Trek, you know what I mean? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, give me a cup, you know.
Yeah. And like and at the same time, like I look at it like right, like even in 3D printing, we now have printers that have AI cameras, right?
Yeah.
Cameras that Getty detection and
Yep.
can detect first layers. So we're using AI to simplify 3D printing so that you don't have to know as much, right?
Yeah.
Is that okay, right? Because I would argue that that's kind of no different than using AI for 3D modeling, right? Like
Yeah.
if
Dude,
you're not okay with using AI to generate a 3D model, I don't want to catch you using an AI camera on a printer. You better be setting that Z offset manually. You better be
you're
leveling
gonna be
that bed
staring at the
manually,
machine the whole
right?
time.
I mean, and again, I'm just being
Facetious, yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying I believe that. I'm
yeah,
just being that like odd, and I hate the term devil's advocate, but you know, because some people are going to believe that, right? Like if you're against AI modeling, AI 3D modeling in any way,
yeah,
then how are you using a printer that has an AI camera, right? Or are you using ChatGPT to help with your kids' homework, or are
yeah.
you generating PowerShell scripts at work as an IT worker? You know, like where do you draw that line of like AI is good for this, but it's not for this? And then the discussion is that even okay, right? Like
Right.
who are we to now say, and again, it's just subjective or your point of view
Yeah.
and an opinion, just like anything else. Um, but someone might say, like, hey, who are you as a handmade 3D designer gonna
Yep.
judge me for using AI
Oh, I'm not
to
judging
generate
them.
model? No, and
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's how someone might come across, right? Is like,
yeah.
just because I don't have that skill, I'm
That's the
not
key
an
word right
artistic
there, is
person.
skill,
Yeah,
because a lot of people take the time to cultivate a skill, you
they
know,
do. But there are
and
some people that are just, no matter how much time they take, are not going to be able to sculpt, right?
but they probably can do something else that's great. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
you know, and if that's something else that they can do, like say if they are like they can't sculpt, but they're like amazing at like woodwork or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And if someone came out with, you know, a machine that could sculpt, and I'm pretty sure there's probably one out there already that could sculpt via AI, you know, wood,
Yeah.
you know, you'd be like, oh, wait, hold on, wait a
Yeah.
minute, this isn't cool,
But
you know.
if I'm someone that enjoys producing AI generated models and then
Yep,
printing those,
yep,
should
that's cool. Like I said, my issue is the
yeah,
gains.
the
Yeah,
gains, the
it's the
money, the
gains.
using it
Yeah,
as a business.
using it as a business, using it to get ahead. You
Yeah.
know, that's the issue that I have, because it takes away from uh people who take the time to cultivate the skill of modeling, and since that's what we're talking about, to
Yeah.
cultivate the skill of modeling, they don't get to build that fanfare. They don't get to, you know, drop a model and people be, think about how impressed we used to be with Wexter and Photosphere and like all the, like when you would see those models back then, you'd be like, dude, this is freaking crazy. Like it still has the same effect, but it's not the same as before, because there's always that question mark whenever, even if you know that person is great at modeling, there's
Yeah.
still that question mark of like, is this AI generated? If you, when you first look at it, you know, and it sucks for people who take the time to learn how to do these things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you, instead of it being like, dude, this is sick,
Yeah.
and you know, which is what happened, you know, 3 to 4 years ago when a model would drop, everybody would go crazy, and you'd be like, dude, this is sick. And now it's like if you see the model and you don't know who it's from, you know, you're like, oh wait a minute, you know, think of people with like simpler models, like you're gonna think that stuff has been kind of like, you know, farmed out to AI.
Yeah. So my hypothetical question before of should someone who just can't sculpt be blocked out of
No,
using AI to sculpt? But Built Over Bot had a good point. I think he was saying, yeah, I can't play in the NBA, right? So he's got a point, right? Like,
yeah, but you can still go and play basketball.
But you can still play
Still
basketball.
go play. You still play in the NBA.
So you can still 3D model with AI.
Yeah,
you just can't make a business out of it.
I don't want to say that, because then that's the like, I personally probably feel like you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But like that is going into the territory of, it feels more gatekeepery. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. I just don't have to agree with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
because it's like it's one of those things where there's like that slippery slope of like, if I'm someone who just can't sculpt, right? Like I just can't figure it out, but I want to own a business that sells sculpted 3D models. Like I'm dead set on it. Should I now not be able to because I can't develop that skill?
I think you should let people know that these are AI models and then sell them.
Correct. Right.
You know,
and then let people purchase those if they're okay with it. If they're not okay with it, they don't have to. Yeah.
But like,
so essentially with Built Over Bot, like you can create your own like non-NBA, like dad bod NBA right, for all of us that can't be in the NBA.
Yeah.
And if someone's willing to pay to watch those, great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about slam ball. How do we start talking about slam ball all of a sudden?
What was that other one? Yeah, they had the one off the mats. They're the jump ball. Remember that?
But that was slam ball, wasn't it?
Was it slam ball?
Yeah,
on the trampolines.
Yeah,
I actually like that.
It was cool.
Hey, Pete's here. Reprinted 3D. Pete, how you doing?
I don't know about that.
What do you say?
He's a skill to using AI prompts to get the engine to give you.
And again, I've heard people say that, and I don't necessarily disagree with that.
I don't think so. I disagree with it.
Do you? Because I think we have talked about this before, and I think we landed on two different sides. Is that back in the early, early to mid 2000s, when Google came out, Googling was a skill, right? Some people were really good at Googling and finding things online, and some people just weren't.
So I don't know if that's.
I think AI prompting or prompt engineering. I mean, I can go to Harvard right now and get a master's degree in prompt engineering, right? So
you can also go there and get like a degree in Tupac. Okay, so like like if I can sell you a degree, I'm gonna sell you a degree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I'm not saying because you go to Harvard on it.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah. No. So we're talking about writing sentences right now, and a lot of people in the world know how to write a sentence.
Yeah.
That's why AI has taken off the way that it has.
Yeah.
There's but
at the same time, there's a lot of people that can write sentences, but they're not a best-selling author, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a Stephen King can write a better sentence than I can probably.
But
right?
Could you imagine if like a Stephen King or George R.R. Martin or like great authors had ChatGPT to generate, they're making this into a movie. Let me author.
So just dump the whole book into chat and be
whole book into it and generate my characters. Like,
yeah.
It would probably be insane. It would, they would probably look amazing, because like it's down to the most minute details.
So that's an example. So if I'm Stephen King and I wrote my book and I now want to turn that book into a movie, I've got to hire someone to be the playwright, right?
Yep.
Transition the book into a play so that it can be a movie, because a book and a script for a movie are very different. So if I'm that, can I now say, well, I'm not going to pay a series of playwrights millions of dollars or hundreds, I don't know how much it costs, hundreds of $1,000s. I'm just going to pay ChatGPT. I'm going to dump my book in there and say, spit out a play or spit out a movie script.
Yeah, they
Is
could have.
that okay?
I don't think they
Because
can do it anymore because of what the whole
the guild thing, but
yeah.
the
But
screenwriters guild.
like I said, like it's literally like to what I was saying before. You can have a Stephen King or George R. R. Martin come and drop like 2 paragraphs into ChatGPT and get this awesome looking character. Then you can have me walk up and drop in generate a night, and it could generate the same night.
Yeah.
It could take the 2 words or 3 words and generate the exact same thing that it generated with someone who put in a whole paragraph of stuff. And
that would be a good test, wouldn't it? Right?
Yeah, but how?
So
dude, you know how many times you have to drop it in there to?
But so say you and I come up with the same prompt.
Yep.
Right? Exactly the same prompt. And I take that prompt and I go to my whatever I'm going to use to generate a 3D model. And then you take your prompt and you go, and then we compare the models to see what they look like, right? Now, does Mojee AI create a model based off that prompt that looks exactly identical to like Shape?
It's technically yeah, that's true. I thought you were saying within Mojee AI would it generate the same thing? And no one's diminishing
like 2 different AI tools.
You said diminishing someone's art because they use AI tools. It's not their art because they use AI tools. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not their art because they use AI tools. The same reason why Maker World makes you say that you use AI tools because it's not your art. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That the same reason why photography contests now, the bigger ones are making photographers say whether or not this is AI. It's also the same reason why you couldn't stage photos before because it's not AI, but it's very similar to faking a photo. And that's what AI is doing, is faking a photo in reference to photography. Here, it's faking a sculpt. It's making a sculpture out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you diminish what real artists can do. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a whole nother topic that, and it's fine. The same way horses were diminished when cars came around. The same way that there are less accountants in the world when computers were developed. That happens. But I'm pretty sure if I'm an accountant, I'm gonna be pissed off that my company bought a whole bunch of computers and they don't need me anymore.
Yeah, and that's a discussion with AI, right? Like you see the headlines all the time. Is AI coming for your job, right?
Yeah. Dude, Fiverr just had a whole thing about it. They said basically told people like, hey, like more or less like the computers are coming for our jobs. And that came from the CEO of Fiverr, basically saying like, hey, and this is a site dedicated to people creating art, on the cheap, already on the cheap.
Well,
and you're it's gonna get even cheaper.
I used I can't remember what it was, some AI, and you can upload a YouTube video and it'll generate a thumbnail for you.
Yeah.
It'll actually it speeds through and watches the entire video, an hour and 40-minute video, however long it is, and it'll generate a thumbnail for you. And it's actually really good. It does a good job. So
but it's using your video to generate a thumbnail for your video.
Yeah.
But you're feeding it your content.
If I made a video, I might have hired someone, right? If I'm a full-time content creator, I might hire a graphic designer to just do my thumbnails. But now I may say, sorry, I'm paying you $125,000 a year or whatever it is, and I no longer need you. I'm just going to use this AI and I'm going to upload my, and it sucks, but at the same time, who's wrong? It sucks for the person.
Yeah.
In Reprinted 3D, Pete, he said, who gets to decide what is art, right? Like,
no, the art is in it's that's why everything I say this is how I feel about it.
Yeah, and again, this is just an opinion podcast.
Everyone knows art is subjective.
Yeah, this is an opinion podcast based off our experiences with 3D printing and AI modeling and all that stuff. So none of this is gospel. None of this is like statistically bound to anything. All opinion here, but and he's right. Like, so is there a group of people out there that may view AI AI generated models based off a well-written prompt as art.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I can't say that I won't, in 10 years, like that's
Yeah, when
I've
it's like
seen AI art that I'm like, that's pretty cool. And you want
Yeah.
to know what the prompt was behind it. And it's like I said, in some cases it could have been like, generate a fantasy world. And then in another case, it could have been like, this whole, subsection from a book that generated the fantasy world. You don't know.
Yeah, all of us that have been in HueForge, if you're in HueForge, you've probably generated an image in Midjourney to make a HueForge, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think I saw something on Bamboo that I don't think that you can put HueForges or any image that was generated AI.
Yeah.
You cannot put it in Maker World as an exclusive model.
Nice.
No HueForges.
Well, it sucks for people who are great at HueForges, and that is partially because HueForges flooded the market when they first hit. But I still feel like you can start a Patreon and sell your HueForges if you wanted to. It's harder.
So look at this. This is it right here. So why was my model removed from the exclusive models program? AI generated content, HueForges, or simple 2D models can't be part of the exclusive program, which I mean isn't a big deal. It just means that you're not getting that extra.
It's just easier for them to just say none than it is for them to go through every HueForge because they get a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that
it sucks
that
for
it's blanketed, right?
Yes.
Like I kind of wish when I saw this, I was like, oh, that kind of stinks because they're just saying HueForges.
Yeah.
They're not saying AI generated images used for HueForge.
Yeah,
that I would get. All HueForges, I'm not so sure, right? Because
and if they had this policy,
it could be a.
If they had the policy in effect, like the whole like no AI, blah 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 in it, then they would have covered themselves so that people who make HueForges from like I use my own photos to make HueForges, so people who make stuff from their own photos and then upload it wouldn't be affected by that that ruling, So it's just it muddies the water. It muddies the water.
Yeah. But right now, like if I draw like this amazing Deadpool picture, and I scan that into my computer and I create a HueForge image and I print that out and it's awesome. I can upload that to MakerWorld, but I can't add it to their exclusive program to get the extra kicking points because it's a HueForge. Even though it's not AI generated, like that stinks, right? Like that's the type of stuff that's like, and again, you could say it's not fair, but it's their site, they can make the rules. But
Pete said every sculpture from the beginning of time comes out nowhere. They all start somewhere in someone's imagination, and then it ends up. Then it's up to the artist to use the tools that they're good with to bring the sculpture into 3 dimensions. Like no one's saying that, but you said in someone's imagination, as opposed we're talking about in a computer's algorithm, and that's the difference. That's what I'm referring to.
And I think that the added thing is that it's not just a computer's algorithm. It's a computer algorithm that's generating 3D models that were trained on models that they didn't have the approval to train with. That's the issue I have, where I don't think it's okay, right? If you have your own AI on a server in your house and you're training it on your own models, great. Or if there is some company out there that can somehow prove that they've trained their models only on models that they've gotten explicit approval for, then I'm like, that's cool, right? Like that I would support more than just saying. But at the same time, how do you even trust that, right? Because I think there are existing AI companies out there that are saying that they don't do that they don't just scrape the internet of all 3D models, which I mean, I highly doubt. But
could there be a company that's like, hey, let's make everybody here make a teddy bear today, we're going to feed it in, now we have the tools to make teddy bears? Maybe. Absolutely.
Well, you know who could do that?
Who's that?
Like an STL Flix, right?
They could.
So an STL Flix could come up with their own AI, put all their own models.
Maybe they do.
I don't
Yeah,
know. Does
they
it? Does
do.
anybody in chat know? Do they have one?
Maybe they
Maybe they
do.
do, but they could, right? They
Yeah.
have. I don't even know. They must have thousands of
Their
models,
stuff
right? At
looks a
this
lot
point.
alike. So, not saying that it's AI, it's just that they probably trained their staff to all create, things that they might have the same asset libraries as well.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of create the stuff that they bulk, join together could all be, from that same pool. They also pull in models outside from people
Yeah.
outside of STL Flicks. So who knows? Who knows?
So Bryce is saying he has STL Flicks and he doesn't think that they have it, but
Yeah,
it would be kind of a neat thing.
That was a joke, but
Yeah.
I was saying it like
But
we
it would
don't
be a
know.
neat thing, right? To see
Yeah.
someone like that
They-
do it, right? Like
They
you're a
could feed all of
company.
their stuff in there and use it to generate models because it's their
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I would
Yeah,
like that
they
would be
could
fine.
they could create an AI that's
Yep.
trained on their models that
Yeah.
someone could then go into and prompt a design. And STL Flicks would probably still own that, and they should. But
Yeah,
then you would be able to print it. I would guess you wouldn't be able to upload it to Maker World and make points on it, which you probably shouldn't be able to. But I mean, how do they manage that? But yeah, so okay, what Pete says.
He's basically saying that if you have to keep refining it until you get what you want, but it's never exactly what you had in your mind. Like it's
No,
you're just refining it down to like, okay, this will work. No one's
I mean,
ever
even straight 2D image generation is really bad. There's not an AI out there that can take the exact image that it just created and edit it exactly the way that you even if you have a good prompting.
Yeah, if that's the case, you even when you use your seeds to reseed back to it, it doesn't give you the same model back. So how can you say like it's like, yeah, this is what I wanted? It is not reading your mind. It's just you're settling on this is close enough to what I wanted.
If they ever come out with some brain implant and it could just like no, yeah, I'm down for that. What's that? What's the Elon Musk chip there that they did in the guy who was a quadriplegic and he can do all kinds of stuff now?
Yeah, Neuralink.
Neuralink, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, could Neuralink read your mind and generate a perfect image or 3D model? Yeah, that's separate. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I wonder. There's so many things behind it and points and arguments and thing, and I don't think they're all like I disagree and I agree, and I'm kind of in the middle
it's
with
a weird,
so much of it.
exactly. Like I said, if you're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if you use it to generate stuff, I just care when you use it to generate stuff to gain from it.
Yeah.
When there's other artists out here who grind to gain, and it's diminishing what they do. That's my issue, is the gain. Like use AI all you want, I don't care, but like just don't try to pass it off as you doing hard work. It's not. You wrote a sentence, and like Pete said, you refine the sentence. You keep refining it till you get something that's close enough to what you wanted, and then you settle on it, and then you upload it. Then that sucks.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they asked me this, and I really, honestly, I hadn't really thought of it. But their example was, okay, there's a well-known designer out there that makes models, and a lot of his models are of like a Wolverine or a Daredevil or a comic book character, and it's a series, a line of models, and he does other stuff too. That he then allows Patreon people to get. But it's technically it's stolen IP, right? So is that any different than if I generate a 3D model and then try to sell it? Because we all know who these designers are. And they are using like Marvel and DC characters to generate 3D designs that they do from scratch. but they are
There's a
making money off those. They're not
yeah.
selling them outright, but they are making money by getting a Patreon subscription in order to have access to certain
I mean,
models.
there's also reasons why you can't generate certain models in a lot of the AI stuff.
Yeah.
Is because it's intellectual property. So
Yeah.
you know, like they've already like the bigger names have already kind of like protected themselves from being out AI'd, you know.
Yeah.
From a lot of that stuff. So who knows, man?
Yeah. I just wonder like where you know, I think a lot of the argument behind AI is very similar to the intellectual property theft that we see a lot in 3D printing, right? We see a lot of models and stuff being sold on Etsy that are the person might have designed them from scratch, but now they're selling it and it's somebody's IP, right? It's a Disney thing or a video game that they're now doing keychains or they're doing something, and they're selling. It's not just 3D printing; it's woodworking and UV printing and laser cutting, all of it. Any type of creative medium, and they're producing this stuff, and they get dinged for it, right? There's stuff that gets pulled off Etsy all the time.
Yeah. Galactic Armory got dinged for a bunch of stuff, you know.
Yeah. It was the Helldiver stuff, right?
Yeah, the Helldiver stuff.
The Helldiver stuff.
Yep.
You know, so it's very similar to like that AI, right? Because you have a lot of these AI, or you have a lot of these 3D sculptors and these 3D modelers that are vocal about AI scraping their models to train their AI, but at the same time, they're creating models that are based off of intellectual property. They're doing the same thing.
It's sketchy, like
right? Like,
yeah, it's a sketchy area. But
yeah,
then it's
again,
also
I'm
like,
not, and I'm not saying this is wrong. So if you're a modeler out there that has made a Wolverine model or a Deadpool model, I'm not saying you're doing something wrong. I'm just saying that is very similar to what you're saying you're not okay with it with an AI algorithm doing or an AI company doing. You don't want them scraping your stuff, but yet you're mentally scraping Marvel and DC to create these models that you're then getting a Patreon subscription for.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it comes down to how close is it to the actual thing, you know. Oh, sorry, the GTR did, said even pen and paper drawings won't be exactly what you envision. It'll be a great version, but it won't be 100%. Yeah. But yeah. Sorry, what was yeah. So Dave Reed, he does Ninja Turtles, he does, you know, Marvel characters, but they're like in his own style. And I think a lot of times Hollywood doesn't come after you too hard if it's in your own style. Pete's talking about derivative art. But and I think you're missing the whole point about a lot of stuff we're talking about. We're just saying that AI versus regular artists, is there a definitive divide between the two, or how will this impact what people make, what art is made, and how people can make money off of it, and how people can I'll say make gains. I won't say make money. How people can gain from it, and what will happen as a result of all of that. Like you said, you know, the bulk of like me making art in 10 years will probably go away. I'm not a great sculptor. I'm an okay sculptor, but AI will definitely pass my sculpting ability if it hasn't already, you know.
Yeah, and I think it'll pass. I think it'll pass the abilities of the 3D modelers that we consider the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it will. I just think it will. And you know,
yeah, and that's the thing, is that like as of right now, can we support artists that make good art now, as opposed to waiting 10 years when they're gone and we're like, man, we really miss it. The same, like I said, it's the same thing that happened with like records and stuff like that. Now, you know, you have a few companies that still press records as opposed to what it was before. You know, people like, they're like, hey, I really miss real records, and they have
Yeah.
it, and they go and buy a record player, and then they buy records.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
like vinyl. I
Yeah.
love the sound of vinyl.
Exactly, and that's what'll
and
happen with other people. Like, man, is Wexter still making art? You know,
so
like, oh, let me.
you'll have a retro 3D modeling
Yeah,
community,
dude,
or
like,
like
oh, this
a
is
like
yeah,
yeah,
dude, absolutely,
like, oh, I
absolutely.
remember when models used to be made by someone with an iPad and
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
pen, you know,
legit.
like,
Yeah,
and that'll be our what, my grandkids that will be
yeah,
talking about
that,
that, and my son when he's my age saying,
yeah.
oh, I remember when 3D modeling used to be done on an iPad.
And like I said before, like even with like regular art, I think people who can do it will still be of value, you know, because people will want, you know, a hand painted painting as opposed to an AI painting. People
Yeah,
may still want a sculpture of their dog done by, you know, some formerly famous 3D modeler, you
yeah,
know.
and it's what
Yeah,
I mean. Peaches said it right there. Is that art? And I'm not going to say good art, because just any art
yeah,
is
art.
subjective, right? What's art to me and you might not be to someone else, or thing. Like, I may look at a Jackson
Yeah,
Pollock and be in awe, but my mother might look at Jackson Pollock and say, "You guys used to do that when you were 5 years old, throwing ketchup all over the walls," you know, like.
100%.
And she's not wrong, right?
Yeah,
What is it? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Art's subjective, however you want to look at it. Like, Banksy, right? Like,
yeah, yeah,
I've heard people say Banksy's brilliant, whoever he is, and his art is unbelievable and a generational talent. And I've heard people say that's nothing but graffiti,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, that should be hosed off the wall, and that guy should be in jail.
yeah.
So no matter what type of thing, it's just I'm curious to see. I would be curious to sit down and talk with a group of people who view AI generated 3D models as a 100% good thing. That's art. That they're super impressed that the
Oh, that.
AI can do it. That
Oh,
and
there's
again,
definitely those people out there,
yeah,
100%. Like,
I just don't, and I'm wondering if people are in our community are afraid to voice that opinion, because I don't hear as much of that, and I know that they're out there, right? Like,
yeah,
I know there are people out there that are just like, I may like the Wexter models, but I also love the 3D generated models, whether they're for sale or Patreon or free or whatever it is, or Maker World points, doesn't matter.
yeah,
I don't hear as many people voicing that opinion, and
yeah.
I'm curious if they don't voice that because they're kind of afraid of backlash, because a lot of people have been more vocal of the opposite camp, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a good thing. It's gonna ruin creativity and art, and however you want to say
I
it.
mean, you can
But
ask Chat GPT, it'll tell you the same thing. It says, yeah, it'll, like, if you ask the advantages or disadvantages, and you're like, well, what about the disadvantages to the artist? It'll tell you, like, yeah, it'll eventually diminish, you know, what is considered art, you
yeah,
know, like, that's just hands down. And it's it, and like I said, considered art. The same thing I've been saying all day, considered
yeah,
art. I didn't say that there's anyone gatekeeping art or whatever.
yeah. And I think
No,
I don't
but
think that's any different though than what's happened, right? Like,
yeah.
I think art has changed over the last 1,000 years. Like,
Oh, by far.
I think a lot of I think a generation like my mother's generation, which is like the baby boomer generation, they view art very differently than like what my son's generation views it, right? Like, there's stuff that my son refers as art, like manga, or
Yeah.
a lot of pictures or videos based off manga, and my mother thinks it's all just like the worst ever. So
Yeah.
I think it's no different with that. I think generationally, I think that in another 20 years, the 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 majority thought on AI is just going to be completely different. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the cell phones of the early 2000s. They're just
Absolutely.
now going to be, everybody's going to use it. It's going to be part of everybody's life, and nobody's even going to give it a second thought. This podcast in 20 years will not exist.
Yeah, at all.
Because no one will care.
No one will
right?
care.
Yeah, no one will say. Everybody say, "What are those idiots talking about AI for? We've been living with AI for 20 years, right?"
Yeah. He says, "I don't care if something's AI generated or not. If I like it, knowing its provenance does not change my opinion, and that's fine. Like for me, I look a little bit beyond the art itself, and I look at what work was done behind, getting to that point. That's like I look. So just my daughter, she went to an art high school, like a art magnet high school. The art that she made going in versus the art that she made coming out of high school, totally different. And so when I look at her art when she came out, I see the path that she took to get there to make that art, and you compare that to like I said, writing a sentence in 5 minutes to create the same thing that she just created, it diminishes it. And that's all that I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then when you use art, something like that, that diminishes the art that other people make, and then you in turn try to make money off of it. It's a bit of an insult to real artists. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm a little bit in between. Like I'm like Pete. I don't care if something is AI generated, right? As long as I know that it's but I do care how you portray that, right? Like I care. I'm okay if it's AI generated and you've said it's AI generated.
Yeah.
If it's AI generated and you're trying to say that you've painted that by hand or you drew that by hand, I got a problem with it, right? Like, and again, I'm not like up in arms about it, but I'm like, okay, yeah, that's to me that's lying, right?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
And so that's my piece behind it. I care about how you use it, not that you've used it. I'm okay with you using it.
Yeah.
Like me, if I ever decide, like I don't use it in my designing now. I've tried Fusion 360's AI generative modeling, and it's awful. But if I ever, one, you'd be able to tell because it all comes out like an organic mess if you take like a bracket and use their generative. But if I were to ever use AI modeling, I would have a caveat in that to say, this is how it was made, right? And if you're okay with that, great. If you're not okay with that, that's fine too. I think everybody's
let's pivot it for a second. Let's say you're a DJ, right? Every night to DJ, right? And then you come in the next night and they say, "Oh no, we're going to use AI." Would you not feel as though you've been what you brought to the table? Those, and like I wouldn't replace my DJ with AI. I would, because they rock. You know what I mean? Like there's feeling behind that mix as opposed to it just being like AI saying, "Oh, this song will be good after this song."
Yeah, and I think I've been to shows where there's a live DJ,
different,
and there's just something that a live DJ can bring that I don't think just a electronic box up there just playing music can do. Because if you go to and I've been to it, I've been to shows that are just a DJ that hits a button and then walks off, right?
Yep.
And just disappears, goes to the bathroom, smokes a cigarette, goes to get a drink, and it just plays, right? The playlist just goes. And then I've been to a show where a DJ sits there and just amps up the crowd and is a sweaty ball of mess and just going at everything. That is always a better show because of the human factor, right? Now, until there's a physical AI controlled robot up there freaking out and doing the whole DJ thing, maybe that changes. But I just think there's certain types of things that I think there's certain types of art, and I don't think they're wrong when they say that AI is going to push out a lot of art. I think it's going to. I just think it's inevitable. But I just don't think it's going to I don't think it's going to push out all of it, because we as human beings, we crave human connection and interaction. They've done studies on this for decades, to the point where the TV show Alone, like people go and they can't even be
I don't
alone.
think it's gonna go away 100%.
Yeah. Oh, you're like freezing up here.
It's people still love records.
Yeah.
Oh, am I? Probably one of the kids or something. It's the reason why records are still awesome. Because the sound it's the actual sound engraved onto the record. And that's what people really, tend to like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day when like really high-end audio came out, like digital audio, and it was like, oh my God, it's so clear and it's so crisp and it's amazing. And then more time went on, and I probably about 10 years ago, I was like, oh man, I heard vinyl, and I was like, oh, I missed that, like that, I don't know, that tone that a record had, and that almost scratchy, can't even explain it. I don't even have a word for it, but that sound that a vinyl record gives you through a good record player. I like that. But there was a period of time where I think when like really high-end digital audio came out, everybody kind of forgot about the vinyl, right? It was just like, but I think at some point, just humans in general, you become nostalgic, and the whole retro scene comes. And we've already mentioned it before. That'll probably be 20 years from now. The retro 3D modeling crowd, I remember when.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, everything changes, but I don't think there's any answer. And obviously, we're not coming up with the answers, and everybody in the comments is going to have a different view on it.
Absolutely.
But I just think that I think that, like I said, it's not going anywhere. We've got to come to grips with it. We've got to be okay with some, the use of it in everyday life with it. I'm hoping that it doesn't become this like bigger thing than it is. Like, 3D printing is not shy of controversial topics. But
lately, for sure.
Yeah, I would hate to see it become, like
a
more divisive thing.
I don't think there should be any camps about it in general.
No.
It's just you support who you want to support. Like I said, I just choose not to support art that is AI generated. I'm not going to spend money on something that I can go home and do myself. Either from writing a sentence, or B, just pulling down someone else's model who didn't put any feeling into it outside of writing a sentence.
And I'm the same way. Like I may support it in a sense where I may, if you posted it, I may like it, but I'm probably not going to put any monetary backing behind something like that, because it's like at that point you're I think you're right. I'm gonna more put my monetary backing and support behind the human doing the actual work versus the human just generating stuff.
100%.
But so I think Pete was gonna come up with a. Pete, were you coming up with another thing, or was it the first comment there about the DJing software?
I mean, DJing will probably go away as well. It won't be long. It's learning. Like number one, people are putting videos on YouTube all the time. That's gonna go away. AI will learn to create the perfect party mix or a perfect mix for whatever the situation is. It'll pull the songs and it'll blend those together. It'll add scratching. They already have software that can do it. It'll add the scratch and the blending and all of that, and it'll fake it. People are already faking DJing alone in general, so it'll fake it, and
Well, isn't there an AI generated DJ on Twitch actually?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I thought I heard someone talking about it, because I know that there's a lot of DJs on Twitch that you do their thing on camera.
Like, would I go to a party with the AI? Like, would I pay to go to a party with an AI DJ or an event with that? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if it was a cool party and I wanted to go and I had to pay an entry fee and it was AI, I might. But if I had two options and one was a physical human DJ that I really liked, and an AI DJ, I'd pick the human DJ that I really like.
If I know that it's a human, because we're entering into the era of you won't know if, like, when you look at like some of the stuff that VO just came out with, you know, outside of it being like insanely ridiculous, you know, if someone, it's going to get a point where you won't know, you know, and your favorite DJ will probably be AI. You know, that might be
they keep redoing the Will Smith eating the spaghetti, right? In the last one that came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, that's pretty. It doesn't look anything." And then I see other people that are like, "Oh, I can tell that that's AI." And it's like, can you really? You know, I mean, I think a lot of people say that because they know, but you know, I thought it was very good. I think you can tell that it's still AI, but I think you got to look. I think every time it's redone, you got to look a little closer.
Yeah,
like it's becoming, but yeah, I mean, I'm one that's I am more excited about AI than I am nervous. I know a lot of people are the other way, more nervous.
Oh, I'm excited about it as well, but like also, you know,
but I also have, like I said, I have my reservations about it. You know, I don't like seeing the headlines of. Well, we both love him, but Chris Prilio just put out a video. I think it was on TikTok, and I think it was a thing where he was basically like, AI's coming for your job, you know, and he was really adamant, and he's been on this AI kick, and he's like, AI's coming for your job, so it's not going anywhere, so learn to use it, basically. And he's not wrong. It's a little much. I don't think it's going to be 1 year. I think it's going to be more than 5 years, but
like I mean, it's going to happen.
So is a stream or a podcast and those who create the content? Oh, it did something. Did we have a controversy?
Pete saying something. Said we're making declaratives and it's annoying him. We're sorry, Pete.
Yeah, and again, this is an opinion podcast, Pete. This isn't anything that's we're not experts in AI.
No, I'm sorry. I take everything back, and I agree 100% with whatever Pete said.
Yeah.
So whatever you said, I'm cool with. You and Joe as well.
Yeah. This is an opinion podcast, and even Steve and I differ on a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's okay. I'm perfectly fine with it. There's no rights or wrongs in this topic at all. You know, it's just
we don't have nowhere near enough clout to change everyone's opinion one way or another.
Yeah, I think it's just an opinion. It's just an interesting topic, you know. And I hope that people don't get. I hope that if people become more or start talking about this more, because it's gonna be, and they start talking about it in groups or in a live stream or podcast, that people don't get upset about it, right? Because it's not anything to get upset about. It's
people. I think people get upset about things. How can I say this? I think it's. I'm not gonna say it. I'll save it.
Yeah,
I'll save it. I'll pack it up for now.
Yeah, and it's like that. And no matter what topic you're on, there's always going to be people that are more fired up than others about it.
And if you look at it, we've been on both sides. Never have I like I said, my only issue is people who do it for gains.
Yeah, like and you're valid in your opinion.
Yeah, anything else, I don't care. I don't care. Like, have fun with it. It's not going anywhere.
Snake Creeper says, "Hey, I'm gonna take your girl too."
Yeah, I'm gonna take your girl.
Gonna take your job. It's gonna take your girl. Gonna take your dog.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have any problems with people using AI. It's just when you use it for gains, like using it for inspiration for gains, I don't care.
Yeah,
you know, It's
Yeah.
like, and like I said, this is my personal feeling about it. I just don't have to like support it, openly support it. If you post it and I don't know, and I like, I download it, okay. Oh no, I downloaded someone's file and it has AI in it, and I said I don't like to support people who have AI. Oh
Yeah.
no. But if I know that it is AI generated, I can choose not to support it.
Yeah.
I could choose
Yeah,
to
and like
support
I'm
it
on the
even more
other,
if I wanted to.
yeah, and I'm a
But
little bit on the other side where
yeah,
it's like I'm okay with you using AI for gains,
yeah,
as long as you don't just try to pass it off on all of your work, right? Like
yeah.
if it's and again that's subjective too. Like um if you produce something and you use AI as a tool, whatever the percentage of that is, again, I'm not gonna think, but I'm okay with it as long as you're not saying like, oh, that I did this 100%. As long as you make the person that's purchasing your product or your service aware that AI is a tool in your workflow, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and me, that's not even like it's just I would view that as like a lie, and then so that's like my personal like don't lie to me type of thing. It has nothing to do with anything other than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I hope that it becomes
I,
I hope it becomes more acceptable, and that people
and
use it
I
appropriately
think
and
real quick,
responsibly.
I think what you said is basically the same. Like it's the lie part of it, because if
Yeah,
you're using it for gains, you're lying and saying that and that's kind of like where I have the issue with it. I don't care if you're using it to share stuff, an idea that you had. I like cool, you
yeah,
know. But outside of that, like if you're using it to to pass off as your own for gains, then yeah, like it kind of sucks. And like I said, it diminishes what some other artists do. If you're an AI artist and you generate stuff, cool, I don't
yeah,
care. But if you're an AI
yeah.
artist and you generate stuff to gain from it without stating that it is AI generated, then it sucks.
Yeah. So, and
That's
again,
all
I
I'm
think
saying. It
we're
sucks.
coming to the end of the stream. So I think what we should
Yeah, yeah,
do, and
because it's
we
almost
talked
2
about this
hours.
brief, is I think that we should,
Yeah.
you and I should come up with the same prompt, and then
You trying to
I'll
make me
take it.
use AI?
Yeah. So not for gains,
I
not for
want to use
gains.
it.
I think we should take the same prompt, and then you use one AI generating model tool, and I use another. And we use that prompt, generate a model, and then compare those two models. Because a lot of people are
I,
saying
I,
that all
I
the
so
AI
don't want to
model
do this.
generators, yeah, but everybody is saying that, all right, I'll take a prompt and I'll do it in two different, I'll do it in Meshi
I
and I'll do it in
abhor
other.
like the thought of it right now of doing it is just like
Because
so.
I know a lot of people are saying, like, oh, the AI models out there, they're just scraping like every model out there and they're being trained. Well, if they're just scraping printables and things and maker
Yeah,
world and everything, if you have the same prompt, then they should generate very similar models if they're generating completely different. And
I mean
again, it's
it might
not.
not be on the same. It may take like 20 tries. You know,
Yeah, and it's
who
I mean,
knows?
and there's more about than just training on the models. The algorithm's different,
Yeah,
a lot of the coding's different. But I'd be curious to see amongst all of the generative model tools,
hmm
if you use the same prompt on all of them, and somebody's probably done this. I mean, it's probably nothing unique, but I'd be curious to see if you try it all, what's the difference between all the models, that are produced. Yeah,
yeah. Who knows?
yeah,
I'm pretty sure you'll probably see assets on each model that are similar. Like if you're generating, let's say, a space cowboy or something.
yeah,
They may have it. You may see features on it that are the same across all the models.
yeah,
But who knows?
yeah,
Who knows? It's a wild west. And like I said, it's not going anywhere. It's going to get better. And
yeah,
okay artists will probably fall by the side and eventually probably start generating, AI stuff.
yeah,
And great artists will continue to make money,
yeah,
hopefully. because people will want the models from great artists.
So before we go, Pete has directed something towards me, and he says, "But again, Corey, who gets to decide what is appropriate and what's inappropriate?" Well, I do, you do, Steve does. Everybody gets to judge or decide what's appropriate or inappropriate for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And then collectively, as a whole, societal, we also collectively in groups get to decide what's appropriate and inappropriate based off the situation. So the answer is all of us, right? We all get to decide what's appropriate and inappropriate for ourselves. Nothing controversial there. It's just that's how life works. But yeah, it's just yeah. So, and then he also says there's YouTube videos that have done so the same prompt, different AI things. So maybe I'll just look those up but I probably still want to do it myself. So, but we appreciate you guys coming. We know it was a long 2-hour stream, but like I said, I think it's a valuable conversation, and we didn't cover everything. And again, it's just our opinions based off the things we've done with it. So we 100%. Thank you for coming, and we're probably going to have longer conversations on this, and we might touch on this in other streams with guests. This would have been a perfect stream to have Chris Perillo, who is all about AI and using it and doing great things with it. And people like that, their opinions are valuable, people that are using it. So, but how you doing, Steve? Everything good?
Yep, I'm just looking to find us a raid target.
So who is on?
Digital Dragon's been on for 4 hours. But it
oh wow, he's probably on a build stream.
Oh yeah, he is on a build stream. Digital Dragon's around, Free Heathen's around, Cyber Jewel's around.
On you guys want to raid into Digital Dragon?
Yeah, we can raid into Digital Dragon.
He's a good guy.
Yep.
All right, guys. Again, have a good night. Hopefully we see you next Tuesday. New topic, new guest. So have a great weekend. All right.
Yep.
Bye, guys.